Hey guys, today I am participating in the Minis Challenge hosted by Corie from Crafted by Corie. I will have the challenge playlist link in the description box. We've got 5 Halloween DIYs in this video, so let's get started. This first DIY is very quick and easy. You'll need at least one of these jars from the Dollar Tree. They come with little shells in them. We'll be removing the shells because we won't need those. You'll also need a Halloween label to put on the bottles, and I will leave these in the description box. Using a thin, even coat of Mod Podge, we'll put our labels onto our little bottles. Now we're going to mix up our fake poison. For one, I'm going to use this gold paint just a little bit and then mix it with water. And then I'll do the same for the other, but use black paint. On the black one, I took a little bit of the watered down paint and put some on the raffia tie that's around the bottle, as well as on the cork lid, just to darken them a little bit to make them match the poison. For this next DIY, you'll need one of these ghosts from the Dollar Tree, some cheesecloth, a piece of chain, and I just got this from a broken necklace, and you'll also need some Mod Podge. First, you'll remove the tinsel from the ghost, but save his eyes and mouth. You do not need to do this, but I just wanted to show this to explain why it's there. I thought it would be a good idea to add some fabric strips underneath the cheesecloth to hide the frame in case you could see through the cheesecloth, but you couldn't, so you don't have to do this step. I did a lot of water to Mod Podge ratio because I just wanted the cheesecloth to stiffen up a little bit. I didn't want it to be completely solid. I didn't show it, but I did end up going back and trimming off all those little plastic knobs off of the frame of the ghost because they kept sticking through the cheesecloth as I would drape it. You'll just keep draping layers of wet cheesecloth over your ghost form until you think it looks good. I set the ghost on a bottle of paint just to get him off of the table so that while the cheesecloth was drying, it wouldn't be sitting on the table. Once that's dry, you're just going to trim up your cheesecloth to make it flush with the bottom of the ghost form. Then you'll hot glue on the eyes and mouth. I just used hot glue to glue the chains to his hands to look like he's holding them. I felt like he looked too white and clean, so I'm just taking some burnt umber acrylic paint, watering it down, and I'm just going to grunge him up a little bit. Now you could totally leave him like this, but I felt like he was missing something. So I decided to make him a top hat. I'm just going to use the shape of his head to cut out an oval for the brim of the hat, and then I'll cut out a long rectangle for the bulk of the hat. I am using a self-adhesive sheet of felt, and so you probably won't be using that kind of felt. But because one side was sticky, I had to make a copy of the brim so that I could face it together and stick it together, but you won't have to do that. If I had regular black felt, I definitely would have used that instead of this adhesive kind. You're just going to hot glue the top of the hat to the brim, and then you're going to make another oval to make the very top of the hat. Once I got everything glued together, I then went back and used my black Sharpie marker just to color the hot glue to darken it so it's not as noticeable. For this next DIY, I'm using these two pieces of garden stake that I had left over from another project. I got these garden stakes from Dollar General for $1 each, but there are several things you could use in their place, like tumbling tower blocks. I also used stamps, brown ink, some Cashew paint by Waverly, a wooden bead, and some popsicle sticks. I had trimmed up the two pieces of garden stakes, and I'm just showing you here that one is a little over 3 inches and the other a little over 6 inches. I sanded my pieces of wood smooth, and I'm going to give them a coat of Cashew by Waverly. Once the paint was dry, I just stamped out the word Halloween on the longer block and the word happy on the shorter one. I took my ink pad and just rubbed the corners of each block on the ink pad itself to do some distressing. I also used a paintbrush and rubbed it onto the ink pad and just made some little lines to do some further distressing. Now I'm just hot gluing the top block to the bottom block. I'm going to paint a couple of these little roses black to use as an embellishment to go next to our little headstone that we're going to make. I'm painting this small wooden bead orange. It's the pumpkin color by Waverly. And then I'm going to take this shish kebab stick and paint just the very end of it brown, and it's going to be the stem for our little pumpkin. I cut a short end off of this larger popsicle stick. I'm going to paint it gray. It's going to be the little tombstone. I'm just going to use some acrylic white paint to paint this longer craft stick, and it's going to be our ghost. I'm also going to paint both ends of a regular popsicle stick to make the hands to go on our little ghost. I'm just gluing our two black roses together, and then I will glue that to the block. Later, I go back and trim off the ends of those roses that are hanging over the back. If you're going to be giving this to anyone or selling it, I would definitely use a different glue, like E6000, because with this hot glue, it doesn't take much pressure to break things, especially on these tiny pieces like this. But if it, like for me, it's just going to sit on my tiered tray and no one's going to be messing with it. So hot glue works out just fine for me. You're going to cut off each end of this little popsicle stick at an angle to make the hands for our ghosts and just hot glue them on. After the glue set up, I went back and just added a little more white paint to cover up that hot glue. Now we're going to make our little posable mummy. You're just going to need one of these small foam pumpkins that comes on one of the Dollar Tree picks. You'll need some rolled gauze. I got mine from Walmart. It was $2 and something. You'll also need some pipe cleaners, some buttons, and some cardboard. I ended up not using the masking tape, so you won't need that. First, you're just going to cut out the shape for the torso of your little mummy. And I just kept referring to the head size to know what size to make his torso. Once you get the shape that you want, you'll just use that to trace to make 3 more of them. But if you're using thicker cardboard, you could just use 2 pieces of thick cardboard instead of 4 thin ones. I'm now going to glue together 2 sets of 2 to make 2 thicker pieces because my cardboard was very thin. We're using pipe cleaner as the arms and legs, but because the wire inside is so thin, to add extra strength, I'm just going to twist them together to double them up. For the neck, I'm just using another piece of pipe cleaner. I'm going to twist it together as well to strengthen it, and then I'm just going to jam it into the bottom of the pumpkin to make the neck. And you can add glue if you want to, but it seemed like a tight fit for me, so I just left it like this. Now it's time to glue on the front of the chest, covering the inside where you have all the pipe cleaners glued. I felt like his legs were a little too long, so I'm just trimming them up with some wire cutters. Now it's time to wrap up our mummy. And you're definitely going to want to cut the strips of gauze wrap at least in half. For most of this project, I had it cut into thirds. This gauze wrap was great to work with because it stuck to itself, and you really only have to glue at the beginning and ending of each strip. Once you have your mummy wrapped like you like, you're going to attach the buttons for the eyes. And I did go back with some acrylic brown paint and give one coat over these buttons because they were a little too shiny. I took some brown paint, gold paint, and a little water, mixed that together, and used that to add some dirt to the mummy. I wanted to give him something to hold in his lap. I knew he would be sitting on the tiered tray, and so I just took some of those little roses, painted them brown, and made a bouquet for him with some raffia and twine. This DIY is easy and quick. You're just going to need one of these plastic skeletons from the Dollar Tree. You're going to take him apart, and you're going to want to cut off the little hanging hook on the top of the skeleton's head, as well as the connecting parts of the bones. I ended up using just 4 bones and the skeleton head. You can use as many as you want of the bones, and it really depends on the size of the glass container that you're putting this in. I then gave the bones a coat of Cashew Waverly chalk paint. I'm taking some antique wax and grunging up our skull and bones. Now, using this glass candle holder from the Dollar Tree and some of this Spanish moss from the Dollar Tree, we're just going to layer in moss and bones, making sure to see the bones through the glass. And that's it, super easy, and for $3, you can't beat that. And here is everything on the tiered tray. I will leave the link to the DIY video for this tiered tray in the description box. Thanks for sticking through this somewhat long video. Don't forget to check out the playlist in the description box, where you'll find all kinds of mini inspiration from talented crafters joining in on Corie's challenge. Have a great day.